This is 4.4 part 2. Let's just finish up the question we started in 4.4 part 1, where we had our equation written like this. We were expressing the number of quarters in terms of the number of dimes. We had finished off with this equation here, but just to rewrite it properly in the form of y is equal to mx plus b. So q is equal to minus 0.4 d plus 170. And so that's our equation. If we have a certain number of dimes, we can figure out how many quarters we would have to have based on a certain number of dimes that we have there. Now we'll go to question C. Question C is very similar, but the main difference here is that we want to express the number of dimes in terms of the number of quarters. So we want to isolate this time. Instead of isolating Q, we want to isolate D. So we're going to use the same equation we had up here, but we're going to get D alone rather than get Q alone. So we're going to get rid of Q first from that side. So we'll do 4250 minus 0.25Q is equal to 0.25Q minus 0.25Q. So again, the reason I did minus 0.25Q is to get rid of that 0.25Q on the side where my D is, because I want to isolate for D. And so the end result there is the 0.25Q is gone from the right side, and so I have 42.50, 42.5 minus 0.25Q is equal to 0.10D. D is almost isolated completely. I just need to divide by 0.1 on both sides, 0.10 on both sides. Make sure you do that to all the terms. Now this cancels out on the right side because we have it on the numerator and denominator. And so our end result, if you move the decimal over or if you need to use your calculator, go ahead and do that, is we get 425 minus 2.5Q is equal to D. And then, of course, you can rewrite that in the y is equal to mx plus b format. So I would rewrite it like this. D is equal to minus 2.5Q plus 425. And so these two equations really help us find similar things. For example, if I had a certain number of quarters, I could figure out how many dimes I would have to satisfy the equation. Or if I had a certain number of dimes, I could figure out how many quarters I would need to have to satisfy this equation here. So it depends what you're looking for. And you'll see what I mean when I do question D over here. Use one of your equations to determine two possible combinations of quarters and dimes Ariana could have. So I'm going to choose any one of the equations. What I recommend that you do is you try a different equation using the same numbers that I choose, but a different equation. So for example, I'm going to choose the quarter equation, quarters expressed in terms of dimes. So I'm going to use Q is equal to 0.4 D plus 170. You could try choosing this equation here instead when you go back and retry it and see if you get the same answer. And I'm going to choose a number of dimes. It doesn't matter. I'll choose a random number of dimes. I'll do let D equals 10. So if I have 10 dimes, how many quarters do I need to have to satisfy this equation to really have $42.50? So let's take a look to see if I can figure that out. All I do is plug in my D into my equation. So the D that I have there is 10. So I'm going to do Q is equal to 0.4 times 10 plus, oh sorry, it's minus 0.4 there, minus 0.4 based on our equation there, times 10 plus 170. And so that'll mean Q is equal to, so if you do your 0.4 times 10, or your minus 0.4 times 10, plus 170, you get 166. So that means I have 166 quarters and 10 dimes. Does that make sense? Well, 10 dimes times 0.1 is $1. And then 166 quarters times 0.25 is $41.50. Plus $1, that's $42.50. It does add up. So you can go back and verify to see if this combination actually adds up to Ariana's total, which was $42.50. What I recommend you do is you try this same sort of problem, but use the other equation, use this one over here, and use the number of quarters being 166 to see if you end up with 10 dimes. So try that out, see if that works out for you. I'm just going to do one more possible combination because here it says use one of your equations to determine two possible combinations of quarters and dimes. So I'm going to use the same equation here, but this time I'm going to let D be equal to 50. So this time I have 50 dimes. So if I have 50 dimes, how many quarters must I have to have 42.50? Well, let's go plug that into our equation to figure that out. Q is equal to negative 0.4 times 50 minus 170 or plus 170, I should say. Plus 170. Please make sure you caught that error in my equation there. It's plus 170. I had the right answer. I just wrote minus by accident there. So that's going to be Q is equal to, so you do your minus 0.4 times 50 plus 170. I get 150. Therefore, I have 150 quarters and 50 dimes. We can see if that makes sense. So 150 quarters, to figure out how much that is in dollars, you just do 150 times 0.25 because a quarter is 25% of a dollar. So that would be $37.50. And then my dimes, well, I do 50 times 0.1 because that's 10 cents. It's $5. And if you were to add these two here together, plus 37.5, you get $42.50. So again, you can go back and retry this using the other equation. You can choose D is equal to negative 2.5 Q plus 425. You'll have a Q of 150. Plug that in there to see if your D actually ends up being 50 as well, to see if you had the right equation. And then you can go back and verify to see if your answer was was reasonable or not with the total amount of money that Ariana had, which was $42.50. So let's go try example 4 now. We want to write a linear relation for the following situation. So there's the health food store. They're making a mix of candy and popcorn. And there's a few different prices here. We have $3 per each kilogram of candy, and then $2 per each kilogram of popcorn, and the total mix should cost $1.50. So this $1.50 here, that's really our Y, so to speak. It's our cost. This is our total cost. Okay, so this is our Y. It's our total cost. We're not going to write it as Y because we have it already, but that's really what that is there. So let's define some variables. Let's let C be the number of kilograms of candy. Okay, so kilograms of candy bought, kilograms of candy. And we can let P be the kilograms of popcorn bought. So we need to write a linear relation to show this situation. We want the total mix to be 150. In other words, our total cost we know is going to be Y is equal to, it's $3 per kilogram of candy, so 3 times candy, 3C, plus $2 per kilogram of popcorn, like that, is 2P. Now in our situation, we know the total cost should be 150, so 150 is going to be equal to 3C plus 2P. And what you could do is you could express C in terms of P or P in terms of C. So you could try that out. The question's not asking you that here, but you can go ahead and try it out. So I'll give you the final answer, but I want you to actually go and try the process to see if you get to the final answer. So if I asked you to do C in terms of P, you would get C is equal to, and so I'm doing this in my head over here, but you would show me all the steps and to make sure you know what you're doing, just like in the previous question. So I would get C is equal to, let's see, 50 minus 2P over 3. I'm just going to rewrite that as C is equal to minus 2P over 3 plus 50. So here I expressed C in terms of P. And if I were to do the other situation where I express P in terms of C, I would get P is equal to 75 minus 3C over 2. Rearranging it so that it looks more like this, like a mx plus b equation, 3C over 2 plus 75. And then you can do the same exercise. You can try to find different combinations of candy and popcorn that you can have with an equation like this that would total up to 150, and you can go back and use your equation to see that they actually do come up to $150. So these are some practical applications of using linear relations and solving for one variable in terms of another. Please make sure you do try to do the solving for C in terms of P and P in terms of C, showing all your steps and see that you get the correct answer after doing so. You can go ahead and try the homework from your course outlines and any other worksheets that are posted. And if you need any other support, please make sure that you go find other videos to assist you as well.